Here's a question for you. What if you could only use the grimoires you can find in Dragon Dogma 2? Grimoires are these little magical books that you can find in the game world that possess spells such as High Salamander, High Frigger, and also High Levin. They allow non-magical vocations to take advantage of some of the better spells from the sorcerer and mage vocation, and they can be used with a very small cast time, which allows for some unique situations. On top of that, these are a limited resource, and most players that use them will only find them through exploration. So it got me thinking, what if we only used these grimoires and only had a limited amount of them? You see, grimoires have a maximum stack of 99 as with any item, and they also have carry weight, which means that it does affect how heavy your status is whenever you're moving throughout the game world. This also means that there are only a limited number of hits that I can use in every single fight in order to try and bring an enemy down. So with the sheer challenge of using grimoires only out of the way, let's get into the additional rules of the run. For starters, this is a solo challenge, meaning I cannot use any pawns. I also can't use Wakestones on myself, and I can't use extracts. I also won't be carrying a primary weapon for reasons you'll see later in the run, and I also won't be using any environmental attacks as well. No ballista or throwing rocks for this playthrough. There is one single exception that I'm making in this run, and that is whenever I use Winter's Path or High Frigger, I am allowed to throw those ice blocks since they originated from the spellbook. So without further ado, let's get cursed with amnesia and get right into the run. I make my character with the likeness of Bronn from Game of Thrones because I saw an easy slider guide on Reddit. And in my opinion, he's a very interesting character and looks like a bit of a bookworm, so I think this will fit pretty well. And in this grimoire only playthrough, we're gonna name him Grim. I'm such a creative genius. We go ahead and meet up with Rook, move some rocks, and stare this Medusa right in the face. Probably not the best idea. Now, some of you might think that this is where the playthrough ends, but I have another option for you, and that is to run away. Believe it or not, this works pretty often. God arrives to give us a migraine, and we go ahead and run away again to jump to our freedom. After getting 360 no-scope, we wake up to Rook getting caught in a Reddit mod's fantasy before meeting up with Justin with 2 ends to set off on our journey. So for this early section, we have 0 ways of attacking since our only option is to use grimoires. Thankfully, we can just copy our strategy from the Medusa and just run away from any danger since there really aren't any forced fights in Dragon Dogma 2 aside from one. We go ahead and make our pawn, steal her clothes for the armor rating, and toss them into the abyss as we won't be needing them for this playthrough. We go ahead and take care of the early gathering quest, and here is our first grimoire. We'll be saving it in case of emergencies, of course. Time to rescue a Cardo. Right, we'll be needing a strategy here. We'll need to avoid as many confrontations as possible and make it to the danger zone safely. We're playing with no weapons this run, which means we can't use any core skills or vocation actions either, so our only defense is sheer movement and position, which is in short supply. Thankfully, this archer is here to help, and we have the ability to carry NPCs, so Akarda will be coming with me. Just a shame that he's really heavy and drains my stamina when I run with him. Despite my health loss, this actually worked out pretty well, and now the whole camp can help him out too. And that's that quest done. And as we head to Melve, that should give a bit of insight as to how we're going to have to tackle this playthrough. It's a lot of strategizing and preparation and running away, so prepare for some shenanigans in some places. Greg the Dragon gives us a literal heart attack, but thankfully we can just run away. Who knew? Thanks for the immortality. Nothing like a little TLC to restore my loss gauge. Also, it should go without saying that for this playthrough, we're going to need the XP from a few side quests. Or several. Or a lot. We'll also make sure to upgrade our armor on occasion as well. This right here is the single most powerful chest in the entire playthrough. It gives us a single copy of each of our main grimoires, Threshing Blaze, Winter's Path, and Fulgurous Lord. As I mentioned before, they each cast High Salamander, which can cause burning for extra damage over time, High Frigger, which can create these little ice blocks that can be thrown for some good damage, and High Levin, which inflicts increased damage to wet foes, all of which are very useful in their own way. That being said, I did use all those early grimoires saving Norbert with Ian here, so that is a bit of a pain point. In case you haven't caught on yet, I don't exactly pre-plan my playthroughs. I sort of feel them out as I go along, so there are a few suboptimal strategies that I use in this playthrough. Though please forgive me for wasting all of my resources on a pointless side quest when I could have just used it on the way to Vernworth. Actually, if you do see any suboptimal strategies, please leave them in the comment section. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. But thankfully for this stretch of the playthrough, I do have a small army defending me on the way to Vernworth, so this will be a pretty easy transition. This is also a great time to gather curatives and other materials for combining into different creations. Sometimes I miss the pawn chatter on these solo runs, man. It's actually kind of crazy that I have more play time as a solo player than I do with pawns, which is like the main intended way to play. Kind of interesting thinking about it, honestly. We make our way to the first official boss of the run, which is this Cyclops. However, the fact that our squad of soldiers can damage him at all is a very good sign. I'm going to just test out my only grimoire left just to see how much damage, and it's actually not bad. But that's it. That's all the damage I can do directly. The only thing I'm allowed to throw at enemies are the ice blocks I get from Winter's Path, and I have none of those. But there is one more thing that I can try. It turns out that the Cyclops himself can break the water dam, leading to that huge chunk of damage I'll be needing. I'm gonna remember that one for later. Now it's just a matter of waiting for a squad to deal the killing blow. Time for a free ride to Vernworth. Heimdall witnessed our valor from afar, of course, and he sets us free on our journey to loot the city. We'll need the money, trust me. We go ahead and get a free house for absolutely no reason, which will come in handy for later. We also solve all of Brant's problems, well, except for one very specific quest. The quest, The Cage Magistrate, sees Brant give you a jail key, which is basically a free get out of jail free card that will not break upon use, which is crucial to getting this run off the ground in a big way. We'd reach level 9 for free, and it's time to get rolling. Oxcart rolling, that is. If I could change one thing about this run, it would probably be to not watch podcasts at the same time as playing the game, because my poor potato CPU is maxed out, which is why my frame rate is a bit jumpy on the recording. But if I could change a second thing, then I would definitely get a port crystal before performing the skip that I'm about to, so I don't have to get one later. It's one of those suboptimal strategies I talked about earlier. After taking the Vernworth Oxcart to the checkpoint Rest Town, we can get directly to Batal without needing to progress the story to get a permit and without avoiding the monsters through the Gorkro Cavern. All we need is a little creativity and patience. If you thought it was the Phantom Oxcart, good thinking, but not quite. The much easier way is to rest to midday and check the road for this fancy looking Oxcart. Just sneak right in and they'll never know the difference. Works like a charm. Now that we're on the other side, we can hop out and get arrested by the Batali guards. Ah, good one. And here we are in Batal jail. Just going to use the jail key we got from Brant, and we are a free man. Really makes you wonder if Vermund and Batal were once the same kingdom, if the current master keys for the jails still work for each other. I wonder why that is. A deal between Disa and Phases, perhaps? Not really subtle, honestly. I'm surprised there isn't a black market for these keys. Oh wait, there is. By the way, it's completely safe to do this skip. Once you escape jail, there is literally no one trying to put you back in it. The guards might remark about you not belonging in Batal, but they're just being racist. Nothing new in a fantasy setting. The backwaters of the desert. This place is unironically the savior of this run. Without Batal, there is no grimoire-only playthrough, only a vague dream of what could have been. Kind of like Dragon's Dogma 2 itself, but we're kind of doing a challenge run in Dragon's Dogma 2, so I guess I can't complain too much. Meet Whitney, the single most important NPC in the entire playthrough. She runs the rare book stand in Batal, which sells books. But it also sells grimoires! Whoa! Whitney here is the only NPC in the entire game with a set location who routinely sells grimoires, and what's really cool is that she sells 5 copies of Threshing Blaze, Winter's Path, and Fulgurous Lord each. Once her stock is bought, she restocks her shelves 1 copy per every 2 days, so we can completely restock her once every 10 days. And we can buy the house directly above her shop and store all the books we buy and sleep the days away. How convenient. So for now, back to Vernworth to catch up with Wilhelmina, foil this brigand's plans, meet Wilhelmina again, finally buy the house in Vernworth so we can offload some items, and head off to Melve to see what we can do about this lesser dragon. And the lesser dragon finally flies away conveniently after I exhausted my very last offensive grimoire. Completely calculated, no luck involved here. Definitely not. So let's talk about the game plan a bit. Funny enough, I actually found out after this part, but grimoire damage actually scales with your magic stat, and I kinda already knew I wanted to be a sorcerer by the end of this playthrough, so that ended up working out. That being said, I need some augments to help me out. I want to make sure I take apotropism from the mage vocation for the magic defense. Beatitude will help with the curatives once I'm leveling 2. And I want to invest in the fighter vocation until rank 6, so I unlock both metal to increase my physical defense stat, and Thu, which will increase my carrying capacity to hold more grimoires in the late game, and believe me, we're going to need them. Lastly, I want to rank the sorcerer up for asperity, constancy, and sagacity, which will increase the probability of debilitations inflicted by my attacks, increase my knockdown resistance, and augment my magic, all of which are very beneficial for this playthrough. Now it's finally time to set up my home base in Bakbatal so I can start farming grimoires for this playthrough. So I of course will be needing to steal this port crystal from the local griffin nest. We go ahead and push on to Harv Village to grab the port crystal there, and then head to Melve to start the Rebellion questline. After definitely not sleeping together with Ulrika, it's time to head back to Bakbatal. You know, via illicit means of course. We're going to get a fresh supply of grimoires from our gal Whitney, and firmly plant our port crystal for future visits. This is now the single most important place in the entire game for us. Of course, it's important for us to have the funds to even buy the grimoires in the first place, so we're going to go back to Melve and do everyone's favorite solo money making method, becoming a fruit merchant. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, certain fruits collected in Vermund will sell for massive profits when brought to Bakbatal and vice versa. So apples and grapes, which are collected exclusively in Vermund, can get us a cheesy chunk of cash. So the way we do this is first visit the curatives merchant where you can buy fruit roberant for the quest with the little girl and buy all of Rune's stock, 5 apples and 5 grapes. Next we're going to run straight out the door to this bench outside the inn. Now this is a completely free way to pass the time, and each time you doze off it's 6 hours. 4 rests is there for 24 hours, and Run's shop restocks every single day, so we can just repeat this process until our fruit ripens. It's very important that you wait until the fruit ripens, which takes 3 days. And once your fruit ripens, you can then store all the fruit in the storage at the inn. For whatever reason, Capcom decided to keep the mystical storage from Dragon Dogma 1 and make it to where time does not pass for the items that are in your storage. So once you put your ripened fruit in there, it will stay ripened forever. It will never rot if it stays in your storage. Crazy mystical stuff. I wonder if there's any lore implications here. Repeat this enough times and go to any merchant in Bakbatal, and ooh, that's a lot of cash, boys. If you do the math, 1 regular apple bought from Run is 50 gold normally, and selling a ripened apple to Whitney in Bakbatal is 350 gold each. Crazy profit. Of course, if you subtract ferrystone costs, if you decide to travel that way, and personally I do, but it's still more than enough money to make it worth it. And this is the primary way that we're going to be able to afford all the grimoires we'll need to buy to make this challenge run possible. Without this money making method, we would need pawns, and that's a whole other thing for another time. And you know, I'm sure there's other ways to make money in the game, but this is the primary one I use and also the most convenient. Alright, so with our new grimoires, we can go ahead and finish up monster culling, and I guess clean up the Saurians if our Beastren friend can just forget that I accidentally hit him when I cast my grimoire. I swear, one stray hit and everyone will just abandon their ties of race and just blast you with their best moves. Humans, Beastren, Saurians, doesn't matter, they all want you dead. Kinda insane if you ask me. For being a giant lizard, they sure don't like the water that much. Alright, that's the Archistaff for Sorcerer Vocation, and that's the Trevo Mine Monster Culling Quest. Time to raise some more money in Melve. Over in Bakbatal, we'll go ahead and swap to the Fighter Vocation to start working on the Metal and Thu augments. This will nerf our damage in the short term, but those augments are going to be massive for the late game, so it's definitely a sacrifice I'm willing to make. There's the rest of Monster Culling completed. Just going to skip past the Minotaur to the Nameless Village and make Srael blow his cover. There's something pretty funny about watching a Thiefmeister fight with a full-on merchant pack on his back, I'm not gonna lie. Just gonna stay out of the immediate area of attack and lay down my damage over time for some big burning damage. You know, for a Thiefmeister, he really is not very good at dodging. By the way, I'm trying to edit all this out, but every time I need to use a grimoire, I need to go into the inventory menu and manually use the grimoire. Definitely prolongs the whole process. Can't let these curatives go to waste. Alright, sorry Srael, I'm back. There he goes, and that's level 13. Yeah, you're not fooling anyone, dude. Through the journalist difficulty. Hello again. Alright, back to Vernworth, turn in those quests. Here you go, Brant. You look stressed, my friend. And back to Mel for more fruit merching. From here on out, I'm just going to skip these sections. If you see a weird route or break in the action, just assume that I went ahead and did some money making and grimoire purchasing because I'm going to have to do it a lot. After a long while of merching and grimoire purchasing, we are left with 24 Threshing Blaze, 32 Winter's Path, and 27 Fulgurous Lord. Now it's time to head to Harv Village for some Sorium cleanup. Not too much trouble, really. We find Ulrika here in Harv, and you can probably see where this is going in a hurry. We go ahead and run all the way back to Vernworth, defeating monsters along the way. Finally here. And at this point, I think it's finally time that we pay Waldar a visit. There he is. We quickly find him a library, escort him out of jail, and now it's time to head back to Harv Village to progress Ulrika's romancing questline. All in a day's work for the village's new chief. Time for a little Melvian rebellion.
Hold your ground. Have courage.
Easy enough. Quick, pan away from the G-rated romance. Oh my god, that was close. We almost saw them kiss. With all the quests I need now completed, we can move forward and attend the coronation. And I will never tire of the sheer comedy in this game, I swear. Time for you to go. Alright, this is a bit of a long story, so let me tell you how I got to this Dullahan. Initially, I was speaking with Lady Margit to accept her task to save Gregor from the Dullahan in Misty Marshes. However, I felt like that was a bit of a challenge to take on alone, so I enlisted the help of Lennart here, since his destination is on the way to the marsh essentially. You know, at first it was turning out pretty well. He helped me fell this ogre. Then he helped me with this Minotaur. But I think we finally found his weakness. One singular slimy boy. Yep, them's the breaks, and no Wakestones to spare. Pour one out for our boy Lennart, everyone. And as if to add insult to injury, our grimoires aren't doing anything to this Dullahan. Yeah, not even a little. Sorry, Gregor. See you in the next life. But while we're here, we can take the shortcut to the Sphinx Shrine. Alright, so I'm going to stop by Brant to get our port crystal for the Riddle of Conviction. Head back to the shrine. There's some extra fairy stones. There's our third port crystal. Got the sealing file. Brought Ulrika for the sole purpose of obtaining our fourth port crystal. And left it at that since I can't hire the Sphinx parent pawn to bring for riddle number 5. That'll do it for the Sphinx, and that's all I need. Now to meet with God and Manila to progress the story. We meet up with Ambrosius to get him some family jewels. Check in with the local smoke shop for a quote-unquote vision, and totally not a bad trip. Oh yeah, it's a trip alright. Oh yeah, it is a trip. Sweet ass sword though. Time to hand this off to Ambrosius for refining, and now we can reach the first main roadblock of the story, slaying the lesser dragon. It's not necessarily that it's difficult, it's just going to require a lot of prep time. When looking at a Drake or Dragon's elemental weaknesses, it largely mirrors that of Dragon's Dogma 1, being very weak to ice, very resistant to fire, and neutral to thunder. These aren't very good spells we can consistently use that have holy or dark damage, so we're ignoring that for this playthrough. So naturally you would think we'll just use Winter's Path, right? Well, it's not that simple. The initial damage from the spell is very low, but if the spell is not fully in an enemy's hurt box and isn't being actively destroyed by fire or other damage, it can create ice blocks, which we've seen earlier in this playthrough. Ice blocks behave just like regular rocks in the world that can be thrown at enemies and break upon impact, but they deal physical damage from what I can see, and a decent chunk of it too. This is going to be the key to taking down our winged foe. To start, we're going to go to the Sacred Arbor and buy 2 rings of percipience which boost magic, which will boost damage from grimoire spells. In between completing all the side quests I can, including Sarah the Blacksmith's quest for dwarven smithing, hey, we got fighter rank 6, now we can swap to sorcerer just after the quest. Okay, maybe a bit too close for comfort there. And there we go, we'll be sorcerer for the rest of the game. The best vocation for leveling magic, and therefore the best vocation for using grimoires. Time to rest up for days on end and start stockpiling grimoires. You know, it's kind of an interesting little conundrum. I've seen challenge runs where players go without weapons, dealing very little damage with each hit, but in this case we basically have to purchase every single attempt at damage we can use, and there's actually a maximum carrying capacity of 99 of each spell in our inventory, so somehow we have to find a way to fell our foes with only so many spells. So there is a level of forced efficiency here. Definitely a highly stressful, booty-clinching way to play. That and a whole lot of patience. We're going to go ahead and complete the Phantom Ox Cart quest, and when I tell you this part of the quest was rough, yeah, not the best feeling. I kid you not, after a solid 2 minutes of constantly getting stun locked, I eventually made my way out, managed to sleep in my own bed, and get my revenge. They tell me that suffering is content. There's tensions on the high road, a short trip through Drabnir's grotto, there's put a spring in thy step, steeled resolve, blazing forge for the most part. There's a candle in the storm, crossing in shadow because even kitties need a little love. Have a nice chat with Wilhelmina, a very engaging and thought-provoking chat. And now that we've made our way through to the Dragon's Breath Tower, it's time to face our toughest foe yet, the Lesser Dragon, with the help of Sigurd, of course. And believe me, we're going to need a lot of ammunition for this one. Low damage as expected from the initial hit. But even if you land a throw on any part of the Lesser Dragon, as long as it's not a boil, you will deal decent enough damage to make this doable. And Fergerus Lord, while he's down, deals some decent damage as well. Just as expected, not much damage at all from Threshing Blaze, unfortunate for us. I found that the most reliable damage comes from throwing ice blocks at the heel out of the back of his foot of all places. I guess this is the time for an Achilles heel type joke. Shoot! It seems that our friend Sigurd has bit the dust yet again. Superhero landing time! Much better. Wake up, fishy. Round 2, you scaly bastard. I think Sigurd fell again. I'm gonna go find him. In hindsight, I probably should have just finished the fight. Always look before you jump. Here we go again, with a random archer friend as well. Thanks, game. Damn, he really went down early this time. You really had to fall in the most awkward spot, didn't you? Here we go again. And down goes Sigurd once again. We can't go save him. There are no more Wakestones, so this time we got to put all those failed attempts to good use. And after a combined time of over 2 hours of fighting, we can finally put an end to this chapter of the playthrough. Unfortunately, we lost a real one though. We go ahead and deliver the Worm's Life crystals back to Ambrosius and invoke the power of God to steal back our sweet-ass sword, and it's time for a real fight. Oh yeah, he hits like a truck, alright. A giant bronze truck. Alright, time to do some work. Hey, we got a thumbnail, boys. There we go. And 22,000 XP is ours. Level 31, boys. Now, instead of heading directly in to fight the dragon, we have some preparations to do. Thankfully, this part of the quest is not time-gated at all, so phases will literally wait forever to progress to the dragon if that's how long it takes you. Again, the comedy of Dragon's Dogma. And boy, do we have some preparations to make. We go ahead and turn in twixt a rock in a hard place, and now it's time to grind. I would really like to upgrade my gear to the final stage of Dwarven Smithing, and to do so, I need a black freakish mane from a Gore Chimera. But that ish ain't happening this century. New plan, I'll upgrade my gear using Batali Smithing. And then lure this Drake into the Agamen volcanic ruins to grab its Worm's Life crystals and Dragonforge my gear. This should also be a decent test of my strength and strategies to see how I'll be able to defeat the dragon in the end. Right this way, sir. Absolutely beautiful. Now, if it stays like this, we'll be in a really good place. He did not, in fact, stay like that. So he's made his way to the central platform and basically laid waste to the entire population of the Agamen volcanic ruins. And to make matters worse, I'm averaging over 10 Winter's Paths grimoires per health bar, which he has 8 of, and I can only carry 99 grimoires maximum, so we're going to be cutting it really close. Oh no! Well, if there was anyone left, I don't think they're around anymore. Wait, I'm drenched. It's raining. Oh my god, it's raining. This is it. Hell yeah, boys. Alright, one more health bar to go. Finally, dude. And with 2 Winter's Paths Grimoires remaining, too. If that rain hadn't come down, this might have all been for nothing. It's always Fiska, man. He's still alive somehow. And for our loot after defeating a whole ass Drake, we only get 4 Worm's Life Crystals and 2 useless Wakestones. Fuck my luck right now. So that leaves me with enough crystals to Dragon Forge just one of my equipment, and I'm definitely not hunting down another Drake for that. Yeah, that Drake took 0 prisoners today. Okay, time to grind again. Some of you may be wondering how I'm getting all my money and grimoires after having everyone in Melve leave due to Eureka's questline. That's a valid question, and one I had to find an answer to on the fly because, to be honest, I did not plan ahead for that because I'm an idiot. There's actually a rotation you can follow in Harv Village once everyone has moved over there, and here's how it goes. First, we meet up with Mia, who sells 5 apples and 5 grapes. She restocks every 2 days and restocks 3 of each fruit, so that alone may seem slower than Melve. However, we can also loot 5 Hearthsbuds across the village and continue up to Sigurd's house and harvest these 4 apple trees up here, continue up the mountain to loot 4 more apple trees, jump down, loot the Hearthsbuds on the other side of town, rest for 2 days or 8 cycles, and repeat until your fruit ripens. You can sell the ripened Hearthsbuds to Mia for a profit actually, so you gain money even though you're spending some on the fruit in her shop. Swing by the end to deposit the ripened apples and grapes, and then sell them in Bakbatal for a lot of profit. A full rotation of this takes about 40 minutes from my estimation, so it's not like it's faster than the Melve method, but it's here if you need it after Ulrika's questline. A bit of grinding later and we are level 37. Time to outfit ourselves with as many grimoires as we can carry, and we are ready for the final stretch. I kid you not, Ragnar just stands there like an idiot the whole time and takes it. 12 years, dude. Jesus. This fight doesn't go nearly as well, but we inch our way to the front and trigger the cutscene anyway because Itsuno is allergic to players needing skill in an action game, I guess. Greg the Dragon arrives, steals our bookworm girlfriend, the source of our power. We have an intense staring contest, and it's finally time for our final test. Well, this could be a problem. So the reason this damage is a problem is exactly the same reason from the Drake fight. We can only carry 99 of each grimoire due to the game having a carry limit stack of 99 of the same item at once. So if we can't find a way to stretch our damage, it will literally be impossible for us to defeat Greg the Dragon. With a glimpse of the ballista, I'm reminded of how miserable my plight is. This is a grimoire only challenge, not a grimoire plus ballista plus environment challenge. I already made an exception for throwing ice blocks. Throwing ice blocks. Well, the damage isn't great, but it's better than nothing. That being said, grabbing and throwing an ice block does leave me exposed for a bit of time, and the dragon to this point has been very difficult to predict as far as what moves will come out and when. I'll Although we do make decent progress towards Greg's health, at this point we're not on pace to defeat him. We're going to need to develop a new, more reliable strategy, but the cost for that game plan does not come cheap. So my previous strategy that I was trying was to circle back to Greg's back leg in such a way to avoid his frontal attacks and maybe mess up his attack AI, but he clearly has several attacks that cover a wide area and has a slamming attack that covers way too much ground and destroys my ice blocks in the process. And if this damage is anything to go by, I need to play close to perfectly, maximizing each and every grimoire to the fullest in order to have a chance at defeating Greg. I also don't have infinite curatives to heal back from death dealing damage. I have a lot, but not infinite, so I need to be more careful. Also, let me know in the comments if you don't approve of this healing method, because I see it as an intended mechanic, but some don't, so let me know. In my previous attempts, however, I did discover several attack patterns. For one, if you're too far in front of Greg, he will try to attack you with his breath attack. If you're still too far, he might try a spell, but one thing is for certain. Greg will not fire off the same attack twice in a row, and each attack does not cancel into the next. In fact, if you time things right, you can almost play it like a turn-based RPG where Greg moves, then you move, then Greg, then you, and so on. Also, at a certain point, Greg just stops flying around regardless of if you shoot him with a ballista, so that simplifies things. Also, you can just run directly perpendicular to dodge Greg's firestorm spell. I just misread it this time around and get blasted. If you start to hear Greg speak and he mentions the word Rykon, it's time to run because he's about to slam you for some big damage and probably a crawling animation. Oh, and you can also jump at just the right time to avoid the stagger from landing. While going for this ice throw, I happen to notice that Greg will almost always try to swipe with his hand in a wide arc if another attack has already come out, leaving a wide area for me to fit and attack his other stationary arm with the ice block. With this discovery, I finally have a reliable timing window where I can strike and run away to safety and repeat for the most part with a few permutations. And once this is mastered, after a few times, Greg becomes the perfect turn-based boss for a little bookworm like myself, leading to a long but very doable battle. Now at this point, the fight has been long and hard, 20 minutes in real time since that last clip in fact, and we need to start doing some bigger damage if we're going to be on pace. That's when I hatched the ultimate idea.
Amuse me, demonstrate thy will.
Greg's breath attack is pretty much our only chance to hit his head for critical damage, and this also exposes his heart as we can see, which lets us deal amazing damage, especially with the Fulgurous Lord Grimoire. knowledge of how to exploit Greg's greatest strength and also greatest weakness, we finally finesse our way to a long and hard-fought victory.
Alas, I am slain.
Over an hour of straight fighting and we finally get the job done, easily over 130 grimoires used to put the dragon down in an epic fight that I never want to do again. At this point, you're probably wondering if I will go for any Purgeners in the unmoored world. No. Not only do the Purgeners have way too much health for me to deal with, it's really more about the time factor. There isn't really a reliable way for us to rest over and over to restart the Grimoire shop in order to replenish our supply given the limited number of days in the unmoored world. Although if you do want to see a boss fight, I did use the rest of my Winter's Path Grimoires to fell this golem at the Agamemnon ruins, so there you go. Technically one boss type creature defeated. We meet our pawn, evacuate our peeps, and put it into the cycle. By the way, I misspoke last video. You technically don't even need to defeat any Purgeners in order to get to the end credits. Even Batal can be skipped, as I discovered in this playthrough, because we're allergic to difficulty these days. However, this was definitely the hardest challenge run I've ever done in terms of patience and persistence. As you can see in my final stats, this run took me almost 72 in-game hours with no Wakestones and relatively few deaths, all things considered. And if you want to see the nastiest stat, here you go, 1,830 in-game days spent in Dragon's Dogma 2, a little over 4.5 years. Every restock of a fruit shop was 1 or 2 days, every full restock of that grimoire shop was 10 days, so you can just imagine the amount of repetition and patience a run like this takes. I mean, come on, you know what I'm gonna say. Don't play the game this way. Don't be like me. This was the single most painful way I could think of to play the game, and that's not including having to ensure you have enough grimoires, all the extra carry weight they cost, having to open the inventory menu every single time you want to do any kind of attack. Plus, in my case, I had like every weekend taken up because of family stuff and I had to move, so it's been driving me crazy trying to find time to make this damn video, and now it's finally done. That being said, I think the next video should be coming out relatively soon. For context, with dedication, this run took me about a week and a half to complete, so it's literally just been trying to find time to edit. Anyway, that's going to do it for me today. Don't do this challenge. I would not recommend it. If you enjoyed my pain during this run, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content. I haven't decided if I want to make any Elden Ring content, but if you're into that kind of thing, let me know. I might make a few. Otherwise, comment below on what challenge run you'd like to see me do next, and I will talk to you again real soon. Have a good one.